it's through a lot of attitude work that we uncover, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing and saying those things that were almost putting me in a subservient position.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, a podcast that empowers everyday women like you, like me, to share and learn from life's mentor moments. I am your host, Rani Alfers, and in each episode, you will meet inspiring women that understand the power of recognizing mentor moments and how those moments can change it all. These fabulous women are here and ready to share it all with you. So let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to Working Women Mentor. This is a unique episode. It's our first time having multiple mentors. With us today is Ticki Favaroth and Suzette Patterson, two fantastic women with a reputation for networking, connecting, and helping other women. In fact, we met them through the podcast. They wanted to come on and share their mentor moments and what they're doing in their own industries and in their own networks to elevate and empower other women. Ticki is an author, owner, speaker. She's a senior partner at managing director at HR & Co. And Suzette is a principal in her own firm that can really just dive right into any business and help from a sales communication level. And these women are sharing something that we haven't heard much of before, and that's what mentorship looks like in your own workspace. And I think that's a really important question because there are people out there listening that you probably feel that you could help but are not certain how. You've probably been helped before, and it's what that did for you. And this episode really links those two areas together and aligns us to go forward and help each other out. So let's jump in and meet Ticki and Suzette. Here we go. Ticki, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background before we get started?
Absolutely. So thank you. So Ticki Favaroth, I am the senior partner and managing director at HR & Co., which is a full-service HR consulting firm. And if we think about my journey overall in its totality, I just kind of think about it in 4 stages. If I think about when I originally started my career journey, I thought I was going to be a petroleum engineer, went to school, did all of that, and had an opportunity to actually do an internship my junior year of college and thrust me in the world of people, so human resources. So with that, fast forward, I've had the opportunity to develop and to grow, and obviously in the role that we play today, supporting organizations really accelerate and multiply all of those learnings through working in many industries and many capacities in the human capital space.
So interesting. You're involved at such a personal level with human capital, aren't you?
Yes, the ins and outs, the day to days.
It's really personal, really quickly. And Suzette, will you give us a bit of a background in your story?
Yeah, so gosh, I went to college and studied broadcast journalism, and my first internship was at the NBC affiliate in Lubbock. My dream was to be the next Barbara Walters because I thought she was the most amazing woman I had ever seen, and she obviously was on television. And through that internship, I figured out that the people in front of the camera don't make a whole lot of money, but the people in sales and marketing do. Not that money was my only motivator, but
it is always one of them, isn't it?
Come on. Yeah. I mean, we have to make money to do the things that we want to do, right?
Right.
So that kind of changed my direction a little bit. And although I didn't start out in sales, I did some community relations for the TV station. Ironically, or maybe not, I am now doing sales and leadership development. So I've owned my business for about 3 years. And before that, I was in a traditional sales role for many different companies selling mostly software and then some IT services. So maybe I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Well, it sounds like it. You've come full circle back to now helping other companies with their strategies and their sales processes and things that you've learned along the way.
Absolutely.
Well, so with our topic of mentor moments, who wants to go first? Because I've got to hear your best one. I want to hear what you want to share with other women.
mentorship is a broad term. And if we think about the pure definition, it's really having someone that's very seasoned to help guide someone on a journey. And so if I think about my, personal life, I've have several mentors. And so I would say thing number one is that the relationship between the mentor and mentee is not a single type of relationship. But if I look back over my lifetime and think about the mentors who've really inspired me, obviously I'm just going to start with just the given, my mom, and just all the things that she did about helping me become the dynamic woman that I am today, and providing those nuggets of insights around how to live my life, how to find my core values, how to treat other people, how to pay it forward for someone else. And I think that's really, seeing that modeled on a day-to-day basis, as well as taught to me in a very early age, really helped shape or started the journey. If I think about it from a career perspective, in the work that I do in human capital, I've had several mentors, whether it was a leader helping me to develop my career and building my knowledge, skills, capabilities, my presence, how I communicated, how I showed up well, and I'm kind of using air quotes as I say that. All of those lessons from things that I did well, maybe things that I didn't do so well, is to have that coach kind of in the background. I call it give it to me straight, no chase is what I kind of say. This is what I've observed. This is where you can do better, or this is what you did well. But one of the things I've really appreciated about those moments is they're really creating the space of authenticity and honesty, and someone that, I could have these candid conversations with that was really pouring and sewing into me in a different way. And if I think about where I'm at in the journey now, being an owner or a leader of an organization, having other women business owners, those that have been successful, those that are still striving, those that are still emerging, the lessons that I'm learning in this space, and mentors who are asking me the tough questions and allowing me to use my thinking agility a different way. And so I would say the season I'm in today is the combination of life plus experience, and really taking it to the next level and being in a position where now that I can pay it forward, at least I think I can, to help others as they aspire to do whatever it is that they want to do, and to enter into those sacred kind of candid conversations to help them achieve their goals. And so those is kind of the high level of what I would say from a mentoring perspective has really shaped and harnessed kind of what you see today.
Well, and Ticki, it sounds very personal for you. And, I love what you say about a candid conversation. I'm curious, what is a more recent conversation you've had with someone, maybe, hypothetically, or have they come to you and just needed that honest advice? Or was it a situation where you said, hey, you may not know you need to know this, but let me tell you.
I would think most recently, obviously, when you're in the space of, leading an organization, I always have these moments where I'm always toggling between what was and what could be. And so most recently, one of my clients that also used to be one of my supervisors in corporate, we had this candid conversation around growth for the organization and really where do I want to be. And so she started asking me these series of questions around, what is it that you really desire? Even though you're looking at these big corporations or what you think success looks like, you're really in a unique position to determine what is the journey and how fast or how slow you go, and really regrounded me on the purpose and my why I actually started out on the path to begin with. And so that was really an unsolicited conversation, but because we'd already built that authentic trust relationship, how are you doing? What's going on? What are you thinking? Mm-hmm. And to be able to honestly share like the space that I was in, and to have her kind of lean in with me to offer some sound counsel, mm-hmm. that I could then take and think about, what was my question, what was her response, and then how it's going to really shape how I action or step from that. And so that was probably the last 90 days as, we kind of come to the end of the year.
Suzette, how do you feel about mentorship? I mean, I know it's personal to you as well, but what does it mean to you?
Well, I think, like Ticki, my first mentor, was my mom too. And my mom, I grew up in a very small town where most of the women didn't work outside of the home. And my mom was like the unicorn for sure. And it was almost looked down upon. She traveled, imagine that. And she actually had a career, and that started when I was like 12 years old. And as a child, I resented it. At the same time, as I got older, I so appreciated understanding her journey. And I think what it means for me today, I do a lot of coaching in my business, which I believe is mentoring. And what always stands out to me is that there are still women today, regardless of the amount of education or accomplishments, they've achieved. There are still some women who don't fully believe that they deserve a seat at the table, shockingly. And so we talk a lot. I mentor women on their belief systems and really owning the fact that they are equal to their male counterparts. But that's difficult for a lot of women still today, which I think that's my give back to the world, at least right now, is just instilling that belief. And it's not like being a cheerleader, but it's really working with women and I work with men too. I love my male clients, nothing against them, but I think my passion is in helping all people, but particularly women who need a better understanding and awareness, I think, of how they not only fit in the world, but how they stand out and how they can thrive.
You're right. You said, can you believe this day and age? I mean, I'm just hearing you, and I know that that's out there, and I know that we all have to work on our belief system, and we have to do it. That is a journey in itself, isn't it?
Yep.
It really is. What advice do you give those women? I mean, do they don't come out and tell you that, do they? Or, I mean, do you recognize it in them?
Some of them, I actually had a client who did say, I work in a company with all men, and she had been put in a position of leadership, and she said, I have a hard time speaking up for myself, standing up for myself, and really having that deep down belief that I deserve a seat at the table. So sometimes they say it to me out loud, and they're very aware of it, and they just need help getting there. So we have to dig deep when they're already aware of it. Well, then why? And how can we change that? And that's definitely not an overnight thing. Some women don't recognize it. And it's through a lot of attitude work that we uncover, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing and saying those things that were almost putting me in a subservient position to some extent. So I've seen both.
That's so interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, I think we've all been in those moments. I mean, in our career or in association or around someone that has felt at that time that they weren't good enough, right? Or they weren't in the right place, or they felt out of place, even, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that, we all know the internal feeling of that when it happens, but to be able to express it and ask for help, I think is such a beautiful thing when they come to you.
Totally. I agree.
Well, you ladies are both seasoned pros at networking. You all are involved in an organization, NAWBO. And I was wondering if you could explain, what mentorship looks like in this group. And I know it's a female-based women organization. Ticki, can you tell us about that?
Yes. So I think before we describe the mentorship program, you have to know who is NAWBO? So this organization was founded in 1975, and it's a National Association of Women Business Owners. That's why they call it NAWBO. Is a unified voice for over 11.6 million women business owners across the United States. And based upon this, it really helps women recognize their thought leadership. It helps address business issues. It helps identify corporate partners, all so that women owners can accelerate their business. And it's founded really on four principles, strengthening the wealth capacity of members or women from, promoting economic development, creating innovative and effective change in business culture, building strategic alliances and coalitions and affiliations, and then really transforming the public policy that influences the decisions or the opinions of makers. So with an organization that has that as a base, obviously when you step into mentorship, it is our desire, and it's our kind of ethos, is for women owners, no matter where you are in the business life cycle, who need to be mentored by other women business owners or business leaders to help accelerate and advance their businesses. They're from concept to execution to be able to do that. And then in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we take this very serious. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to launch our mentorship program for the 2021-2020 year. And so it's our desire to find women of all ethnicities, backgrounds, business types, industries that really want sound counsel and kind of that straight no chase, or as Suzette mentioned, to help them dig deeper to find out what's going to help them accelerate their dreams and their passions and their goals, and to provide them not only with the resources and tools, but really creating that space where you could have those candid conversations so that growth is the mindset and people can actually move forward. And so we're really excited about what we're going to be doing this year. As Suzette mentioned, I actually sit on the board as well as the mentorship chair. And so this is a personal contribution to what will be given back into the world or just in the DFW area, but most importantly for women who are really trying to take their ideas to the next level.
For the person who's listening to us today who hasn't joined a group in a long period of time, maybe pre-COVID, they were out meeting people and connecting in the right places. What are some tips or some advice that you could share with someone listening today that hasn't been a part of something like this or hasn't, reconnected with those groups yet?
So, Ticki, can I take that one?
Absolutely. I was going to say, as our program chair, go for it.
Because I talk with my clients about this all the time, and I'm very passionate about, and I'm doing the air quotes, networking. So I think my advice would be, particularly if you haven't been connected in a while, get connected, but figure out who you want to be connected with and why. Because, time is pretty limited, I would say, for all of us, particularly if we're women business owners and we're kind of wearing 50,000 different hats, right? Time is precious, and so where you spend it is important. So the advice I would always give to anyone is look into the group, see what you like about the group, who is in the group, and then what is your motivation for even visiting a group, right? So the mistake I see sometimes is people join networking groups because of what they could potentially get from the group. And by that, I usually see them looking for, if I can't get any business out of this group, then why would I join this group? And I'm not minimizing that because that is important. And that's usually what happens over time. But I think in order to find a group that really works for you, whatever the group is, you've got to visit the group at least, a couple of times. And then you've got to go in with the attitude of, I'm going to give as much as I can get from this group, right? And we're talking about mentorship. And I think this is a beautiful tie into networking. Don't be looking for just what you might get from a group, but also be looking at what you might be able to give back to the group. And make sure that your motivation is around that and not so much around, I've got to get some new business or it's not going to be worth my time, because there's a lot of things we can get from groups and that we don't really ever think about.
Yeah,
right.
That's so true. You're right. I think it's an old way of thinking almost. It's certainly, coming at it from a servant attitude, the giving, but it's connecting with those right people and growing in the experience of the connection, I think is so important. Before, I felt like everyone, they wanted to join a group to see, you're right, like what's in this for me? What can I get out of this today? But really that growth piece is also the advice I want to remind people. That's the part of it. It's not sometimes even who we meet. It's how are you growing with the other women in the group around you, whatever you're in, and how is that moving you toward your vision and your goals?
Absolutely.
And I agree. And if I could just add on to stack on to that, from my seat and my position, I really think it's around two things. It's experience and exposure. And we know that when we cultivate an environment with like-minded individuals, the experiences will help you accelerate where you are, and the exposure to new ideas, concepts, conversations, people will expand your sphere of thought, leadership, and control. And so what I would recommend to anyone that's joining a group, hopefully NAWBO, is that you think about the experiences. And as Suzette has mentioned, it's a two-way relationship, but also the exposure that can exponentially change the way you think, the way you be, the way you do, the way you act, because now you have a new set of concepts and ideas to actually action against.
So true. And if we think about that and we take it into the workplace, so what does networking look like in the workplace? I mean, if we know what we want to get out of the groups and the associations we spend our time with outside of work, what about internally? When you think of networking or connecting or finding those mentors in companies, what does that landscape look like?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start. So I think, inside of the workplace or workspace, because now we have these virtual workspaces now, I think the same rubric or ideas apply. So one, taking an assessment of where you are and where can you get the greatest lift. Looking around you for individuals that may have that experience or be in a position to expose you. Authentically, reaching out, being the change agent that reaches out, that sparks that, and really having an understanding of what you're looking for, but also what can you give back. And I think whether you're inside of an organization, outside of an organization, that makes sense. And the more people that you can make these connections with, the more people that you add to your black book or your group of people that it really, again, goes back to you create these unique experiences, exposure that's going to help you in moments time when you need the insights or need some advice or want to lean into someone that you have a really great connection with that can help you personally, professionally, career-wise grow in the direction that you're trying to.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, it's really about being seen to some degree, isn't it? Yeah,
I think it's also about seeing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
that's dynamic.
Having your eyes open and recognizing that there might be someone within your organization who's needing mentorship or just support or just, someone to listen to them and empathize with them wherever they are in that moment. I think sometimes we put our heads down and we're so focused on the job and our goals, and that's important, really important. But stepping back from that and just being fully aware of the people that are around you who might be needing mentorship or help or support, who are not necessarily going to ask for it.
Well, and how do you think that's changed with our work spaces, as Ticki said? I mean, as we're a bit more virtual and we don't no longer have as many of those in-person connections in organizations?
I think we have to be even more intentional. Meaning maybe it's a block on the calendar of, once a week, I'm going to reach out to somebody, right, who I've not spoken to in a while, who might just, want to have a conversation. But I think if it's not intentional, we get busy and days and weeks and months go by and we've not made those connections. So I think it's almost a behavior that you have to put into your plan, right? Like once a week, I'm going to reach out to somebody and just offer support. I think we have to be more intentional because we're not going to see them in the hallway. We're not going to have the opportunity necessarily to go to lunch with them in person. So I think it's a behavior for me.
Yeah, it seems, our workplace is changing, but our authentic effort to meet people should not be changing, right? I mean, no matter how it looks and how it happens, it's important we stay determined, to make those connections and to help and to lift others around us if possible.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Ladies, you guys have been wonderful today, sharing some great advice in the workplace on mentorship and so much to unpack for this conversation. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for the invite. Yeah, this is fun.
Where can everyone listening to us find you?
Ticki, you want to go first?
Personally, if they want to connect with me, they can most definitely, reach out through www.hrandco.com. If they're interested in mentorship or NAWBO organization, you can do mentorship at NAWBO.DFW.org, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you. If not, call Rain. She'll tell you how to find us, and we'll go from there. Suzette, over to you.
Yeah. So, I'll connect with me on LinkedIn. Suzette, my maiden name is Hughes, as in Howard, Suzette Hughes Patterson. My website is star-performancegroup.sandler.com. Rani or through NAWBO, any of those ways work great.
Well, thank you so much again for joining. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I hope you'll walk away feeling inspired and are thinking of how a mentor moment can help you or someone you know. In case you haven't hit the follow button to subscribe to this show, please do so. And if you love the episode, I'd really appreciate a review. You see, this review helps Apple or Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to us on know that other women just like you want to learn about the show. And it'll help us spread the word. Let's connect on Instagram at Working Women Mentor or at Rani Alfers. You can find all episodes online at ranialfers.com/podcast and the ability to send an audiogram of your favorite mentor moments. And we respond to everyone. I truly can't wait to hear from you. Check back weekly for new episodes, and cheers until the next episode.